Welcome back to another episode of the Vision Pod, where guests are handpicked to bring value to your everyday life. Enjoy. Thanks for coming on, Colin. This is Colin O'Day. He was my sales manager at Hansen Ford. Youngest sales manager in history.
Ever. In Canada.
Yeah. Brand champion.
Yeah.
So what do you like most about being a sales manager?
What I like most, I think, is just having the ability, and not really the ability, but the opportunity to create culture. And, the dealership, I think, for a while has had a pretty healthy culture just among salespeople and just everyone, I think. So I think this role, I've started it, it's almost been a year now. And that's just one thing I think is the best part of the job. Obviously, being able to help customers from getting into a bigger truck or getting a vehicle that needs more seats, that's all great. But, I think just working with people, like the staff that we have, the salespeople, I think that's one of the best parts for me. So
cool. Yeah. What do you think makes a good salesman? What's your favorite character traits of your salespeople?
The first one that comes to mind would just be just motivation. That can be really challenging in an industry that kind of has ups and downs, like busy seasons, slow seasons, and it can be emotionally challenging. You could go a week, sometimes 2 weeks without selling a car, and that can really kill your motivation. But I think you don't have to know a lot about cars. You don't have to be a mechanic or know what engines and what. It's important because people are comparing lots of different vehicles, but if you're just a hard worker and you're motivated to talk to people, to get deals done, to help people out, to get another sale, you'll do really well. I think that's just the first thing. I think besides that, I would say attitude is a good one. There's a lot of people that attitude, and it kind of ties into being motivated, because when you go through those slumps of the slower seasons, you don't sell anyone for 2 weeks, you don't talk to anyone for 3 days. If you don't have a good attitude, and if you don't have joy in your life, if you don't have if you're not thankful, it's easy for your attitude to just be terrible. And when you have a bad attitude, customers and the guests we have coming in, they can sense that, they can feel that you're having a bad day, and they're probably not going to buy from you because they're going to another dealership. Maybe they're going to 5, and if they have a bad experience just because you have a bad attitude, they're probably not going to buy from you. So if you're motivated, you have a good attitude, if you can just be consistent with those things, that's probably the third one. I haven't thought about this really, but that's
I like it.
Yeah,
top 3.
Yeah, that's probably the third one. If you can just be consistent with those 2 things, then you're gonna be a good car salesman. Yeah.
So on those sad days and days you don't really want to be there, how did you keep a positive attitude, or how do you help people?
You play video games. You throw the football around. No.
Yeah.
No, that is kind of part of it. I think. I think we have a pretty relaxed environment as a dealership compared to most. I have only ever worked at one dealership, which is Hansen, but we've had a lot of salespeople come and go, and I've just heard what other dealerships can be like. Other dealerships, there can be a lot of screaming. There can be really high expectations. You can have you can't go home if you don't make 30 phone calls. And you can't come into work the next day if you don't have an appointment or 2. So, I kind of joke about that, but it is, I think, important to, not take it too seriously, and just to be busy with the people around you, like the guys you're competing with. If you can just, remain friends with those guys, do those things. But on a more serious note, I think just making phone calls, staying outside, just staying busy. Busy attracts busy. That's something we say often. One of our sales guys, you actually had him on the podcast, Jason. He just always stays busy, and he's our best sales guy, and probably the best sales guy in the city because he just stays busy all the time. He's either outside recording a video of a vehicle, he's calling customers, he's sending emails, he's doing deliveries. He just stays busy, and through that he just, your motivation stays up, your attitude stays up, just because it feels like you're doing something. And some guys, as you've seen, because you worked there, can just sit around, and then things get worse and worse. So
yeah, it's definitely something hard to do. Try to put a smile on every single day.
Yes, because they're long days. It's 10-hour days, and there might not be a customer walking through the door for a few days, and then you have to just be ready, to give them, that customer, your all, because that's how you're going to make money, is if you sell that person. So
yeah. I know the morning meetings were pretty big there. Was that kind of something that you had to learn quickly, how to run a meeting, and what's kind of important for you to learn?
I think I was ready for it. I've been able to watch Dan, run the meetings. Mm-hmm. Dan's our general manager, and he started the same week that I did 4 years ago. And so, I've basically just been able to, copy what he does, or at least I try to. He obviously has years and years of experience on me, but if I can just kind of do what he does, like, I've seen success in the way he runs things, and so that's what I hope to do. I think I'm slowly getting better. At first I was maybe a little too, not too structured, but forget to think about the important things. Or one of the goals that I had was to just publicly and regularly praise the sales guys. Sales guys can have a big ego on both sides. Like, if things are going really good, they're really good, but it's also pretty easy to hurt them and hurt their ego. So if you just keep people positive just by, Jason had a great month. He sold, 15, 20 cars, just like constantly, reminding everyone else, and just for them to hear that in a group, I think is important. So, but it is hard, like every morning or the night, usually. So we have Monday morning meeting, Wednesday morning meeting, Friday morning meeting. And after each meeting, I'm already making notes in my phone for the next meeting, like what I want to talk about. And I also have to just remember to be consistent with, hey, are we making sure people's phones are getting connected? We were only at 80%. We want to get to 100%. Hey, we've got the sales dinner tonight. So just things like, just to be consistent with it is not always easy. So I just have to. That's just the way that I'm organized with the meetings, and seems the meetings, I think, go well.
For sure, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Being a salesman, you kind of have to be able to shut off when you go home, so you're not always thinking about what you did, what you could have done. You picked up climbing. What do you like about climbing?
Climbing is fun. I picked that up probably like 7 or 8 years ago. It was part of like school. I was doing an outdoor leadership program for my degree, and that was just like the first 2 years, like half the year you're learning like outdoor skills. And so I started to learn about ropes and knots and climbing. Wasn't my favorite because I liked the faster paced extreme sports. Rock climbing is an extreme sport, but stuff that just, it's faster, like whitewater rafting or
longboarding,
kayaking,
downhill longboarding.
Yeah, downhill longboarding, and like mountain biking, all of that stuff. So I think now it maybe just fits more into not necessarily into my comfort zone, but it's safer, I think. It is. People look at rock climbing and they say like, oh, that's pretty dangerous right off the go, but and they see people like Alex Honnold that just does like free soloing, so he's not climbing with rope. But climbing, when done properly and safely is like the safest thing you could do. So
Yeah.
That's been fun. I wish I could do it more, but it's a 3-hour drive one way, and I have 3 kids and a family, so it's harder to do now. But yeah, so I still love doing it, and I'd love to go every weekend if I could.
Yeah, that's cool. What would be your favorite of those of your extreme sports that you do?
I would say climbing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty versatile, and it also just gets you to places that almost no one has ever been or is ever going to go.
Yeah.
Mountain biking, a lot of people do that. A lot of people also get very hurt doing that if they try to do. And like I'm just not good enough to not get hurt. So, and I want to go fast like the pros do. So I'm just like I can't go. Yeah, I gotta be careful with that. But
Yeah.
And so rock climbing, it's like the hike on the way there. You call it the approach. So you do usually a beautiful hike, and something about all of the gear, like putting on like a full harness with just like it's just loaded with carabiners and slings and belay devices. It's just loaded up heavy, and you're using like all that gear and you need that gear to get you up to the top of the mountain and also to get you down. So, and the view is always so rewarding. And again, it's like most places or most times it's a view that no one else is going to see. It's just going to be the people that did that rock climb. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you have 2 boys and 1 girl. That's probably why you're a little more conservative now when you're doing your sports. How's that? What's that been like, starting a family?
It's been, a lot of work. It's been really fun, but it's just busy. Yeah, it feels like this last week we had something, or at least I had something going on like every night of the week, and it was just too busy, or I felt maybe a little overwhelmed. But I think if I didn't have kids, I probably wouldn't have felt that way. So it's just, I just have more of a desire. And now that we're out on an acreage, I just have more of a desire to just be at home with them and just to play. And and they're at that age too, where a couple of years ago they're not walking yet or talking or, maybe not really noticing as much. Still important to be at home for the dad for I think any age, but now it's just like they're fun to hang out with. So yeah, it's been good. Yeah.
Pretty rowdy couple of boys.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, Wilder and Briggs, and yeah, they're crazy.
Yeah.
Last night, Wilder he always just wants to fight. Like right when I get home, he's just trying to punch me right away, and then so we end up going down to the basement. Wilder and I are just fighting, and Briggs is just off to the side, like just setting up a train set. And he's a year and a half younger, and he just doesn't have as much interest in fighting. he's over building trains and towers and all that. So they're different kids. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were doing car sales, you got into investing in real estate. How'd you get into that?
Yeah. So. Yeah, sales has allowed me to invest, like you said, and my brother-in-law told me about a book. Cannot remember the name of the book because it was a couple of years ago, but it's about short-term rentals, so Air B&B or Verbo, and I wanted something that was kind of like a business. We had already had a rental property that we were living in the basement. It was an up-down in Grand Prairie here, and we rented out the upstairs long term. But getting into short-term rentals, that really intrigued me just because of the potential cash flow. So I read this book, and I literally followed the steps of the book as I read it. So I wasn't even I hadn't even finished the book yet, and I was already doing it. I was already buying properties, or I bought one property and set it up before I even finished the book. Some might say that's crazy. I like taking risks for the most part with money. I think I have an open hand about it, and so I just kind of went for it. I did really study I took some time. It wasn't like over a week, but I took some time to just study different markets to invest in a short-term rental or with Airbnb. So that I did take a few months looking at that. The best markets are going to be your vacation markets. It really depends on like what type of home you have, like how many bedrooms, where it is, whether it's in like a city or it's like a regional drivable location, or if it's like a fly-in vacation destination. So I just wanted, from what I saw in the data that I looked at, those short-term or the drivable, like regional drivable markets, a lot of them usually are national parks, like in Canada or in the US. Through COVID, those did really well. This book and what data shows is like no matter what the economy is doing, people are always going to vacation. So, however, some of those fly-in destination markets, they'll probably struggle just because there are families out there that the ones that could afford to go to Hawaii or go fly to Orlando, they're not going to spend that much anymore because the economy's not doing so well. They're still going to vacation, so they're going to now spend a week going to a national park or going to the mountains or going to the lake, and they're usually going to rent a home because it's just an affordable way to travel with your family or friends. I don't have enough money to buy a house in Banff or in places like that, so we chose Hinton. We feel Hinton it does attract people from all over the world. We've had guests from Sri Lanka, China, Czech Republic, almost not every country, but all over the place. Like it's been crazy just to see like people are coming to stay at our house in Hinton to see Jasper National Park. Mm-hmm. If you're from Grand Prairie, you think of Hinton as just like you never actually go into Hinton. You just kind of drive past it to go to, you don't even go through it to go to Jasper. But if someone wants to stay in Jasper, it's extremely expensive. Yeah, there's families that can afford it, but if families are traveling together like 8-10 people, there's a lot of people still that aren't in that 1% that can't afford to actually stay in Jasper, so they're willing to drive the 45 minutes. So it's done well and well enough to buy another house the next year, and they recently just put a cap on buying Airbnbs there, so that's good news for us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
what's the cap?
Would have you just, I don't know the number, but if I want to try to go and buy a house right now in Hinton and I say I want to Airbnb it, they would tell me no.
Wow.
So wish I would have bought more back when I did, but people have just seen the success in the short-term rental market there, so yeah.
Yeah, one of the downsides to short-term rentals is management. How much management do you deal with?
So I have a really good team set up in Hinton. I obviously can't go and just clean it. It's over 3 hours away or can't do any of that. So there's a lot of technologies and softwares that just help you manage that, your short-term rental. So it starts with you do need people. In this book, I'll share the name of it later. When I find out what it is, in the book, it just talks about
it's Airbnb for dummies. I'm just kidding.
It talks about needing a team, and if you're on a smaller scale like I am, you really just need like a cleaning team and a handyman, and so that's all I have right now, and they're awesome. Like I couldn't do it without them. Obviously I couldn't go and clean it, and so just to keep reviews up, and there's always things happening with houses that needs, you need to shovel the driveway, or you need to put new light bulbs in, or a new hot water tank, anything can happen. So, but I have some good softwares that just allow me to set pricing, number of nights available. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and it has taken me a little bit to really get it dialed in, and I think I'm there right now.
Yeah.
It's just like, it just kind of runs itself, and I do have to look at it, a couple times a week, but it doesn't take up much time.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
What role has like your belief in God had for you in your like journey to success?
You know, my relationship with God and my faith has been a lot like, I was telling this to someone yesterday, I think. It's just been a lot like the Israelites, and I think most people can relate to that, the Israelites in the Old Testament, where one day they're praising God, everything is good, He's the only God, and they love Him, and they're making sacrifices, and then the next day or the next year, however long it might be for someone, you've forgotten what God has done, you've forgotten God's goodness, and then you go and you start worshiping another God, whether it's your phone or whether it's money, and so, you know, that's been me, you know, for a lot of my life, and you know, I think lately I've just been able to, or God's given me the ability to just be content with what I have. I think I've gone through phases, like especially in sales, because it's, you know, all of a sudden I'm like a college student, or you know, like a ranch hand, and I'm not making much money, and then all of a sudden I go into sales and I'm just working hard, and I'm, you know, making way more money than I ever have before, and so there's a certain level of pride that can come up in you or in anyone, and so yeah, like I haven't done it all right, you know, I haven't done it well, I haven't been faithful to the Lord the whole time, and I just, thank God that I haven't lost anything, you know. I think I've it's not like I've ever doubted God, but it's just like I've fallen into sin, or I've forgotten God's goodness, or I haven't been content, I've just wanted more.
But you're seeing breakthrough.
Yeah, I think this past year, it was actually right after you left. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Remember when I showed up?
Yeah. No, I think, you know, we've been going to a new church, and we're just a part of a new community, and, you know, I don't want to say it's just all where I've been living, but I think God has just been working in my heart and in my life, and I've just had more of a desire to give, whether it's my time or to give financially, and it's not like I'm making less now as a sales manager than I was as a salesman, so yeah, it's not really about the amount, but it's just like, I think, God's just been working in me, and He'll always will be, because I'm a sinner. So
do you justify just getting paid less just because you're learning a new skill?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Yeah,
being able to lead a team.
Yeah, being able to lead a team. Like, I knew, and my GM, like he talked about it with me. Like, sometimes you need to, you know, be able to take, you know, 1 or 2 steps backwards to then later on, you know, take 3 or 4 steps forward. A lot of people, like, if you're an employee in a business, there's a lot of times you can kind of plateau, you know, and so I think most of your listeners probably don't fall into that category. Maybe they do. So I think that was me as a salesperson, you know, like, the job is so rewarding. I loved the job because it was just like, however I perform is like, if I perform better, I'm going to make more money. Mm-hmm. You know, there is a certain limit to that. So I just wanted to improve my skills. I think it was the next step. I feel like God was calling me to do that, just so that I could have a bit more influence in the people around me. And mostly, and a lot of it was just to learn. So I guess to answer your question, it's like, I'm in a learning stage right now, and I've learned a ton. Like,
What would you say the biggest things you've learned is?
One of them would probably be just, like, how challenging it is to just manage people and manage a business, I think of my department, like the new sales department. I pretend it's my business, you know. Like, I think if you're an employee out there, and you do want to, you do want to succeed and grow, and eventually have your own business. If you're in a place where you are an employee, just pretend it's yours. So, and it's just, you're gonna be more motivated. You're gonna be more willing to learn, be willing to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And so, that's been like, it's not easy, like just dealing with people. There's so many different types of people out there that, in your business, like in my little business at the dealership, it's just pretty much just like my sales guys. And one of them, with one guy, I don't have to, he's good all the time. I can leave him alone and he's going to do well. And then there's other people, like I need to like be encouraging them and talking with them, setting goals, helping them out daily. And there's everyone in between. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, with the people, it's just like looking at all the numbers, and where we're making money, right, where our opportunities are. So it's just something like I never, if you're starting a business, I think for the first time, you're probably going to learn those things as you go. And that's why it's risky, just starting a business from scratch on your own. So now it's like, but let's say today I go and try to start my own business, I would, obviously I'm going to say, I'm going to succeed, but maybe I don't, maybe there's a lot more I need to learn that just hasn't been put on my table yet. So,
but for sure, like knowing how to read those sheets and those statements, that'll help you. And then they're paying you to make those mistakes. Yes. You're not losing money making those mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is definitely a good thing to be.
Yeah.
So you are from Michigan. You're one of the rare people who was born in the U.S. and then came to Canada, stayed in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
What are some differences and why did you stay in Canada?
Some differences.
It's cultural.
It's a lot darker here in the winter.
Yeah. Sadder.
Yeah, culturally, I mean, in Grand Prairie, it's very unique. We have, a lot. It's very blue collar for the most part, and just like the success and the money that just the energy industry brings in is just like I've never seen it before. And like growing up back home, you don't have, or like if you're a 18 to 29-year-old, like you're broke, like you're in debt, like majorly, with student loans mostly, and then it's, and then here it's just like there's 18-year-olds that are making like $200,000 a year or 150 or whatever, and they're driving insane trucks with a sled and a quad on it, and it's just like so different culturally, and there's a lot of, I mean, any major like city center, and I didn't grow up in a huge city, but it was like 100,000 people, but that's just probably the biggest difference, is just seeing like what a culture can look like with like a blue collar and just opportunity. Like there's just so much of it here. It's just because it brings a different type of person, like the blue collar, it's not everyone obviously, but it's just a different type of person. And so that's one of the big differences. Sports, most people love hockey here. They're probably still not as passionate about the sports as we are in the States, and it doesn't matter the sport, whether it's baseball or football or basketball, like in the States, it's just on another level, like just the commitment to the college games and pro sports games, like it's just a different level than it is here. And I think, I guess why did I leave? I was a girl, I met my wife at Bible school in Montana, and the next year I did a YWAM, so I was overseas, New Zealand and Nepal, and then I just followed her up here. She was from this area, and so I committed to go to Bible because I wanted to further my education. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life yet. Still don't really. And so I just followed her up here, and we've stayed. So it's just like, and I like it. I don't. I'll never miss like the amount of people there are like back home, and a lot of places in the States. It's just very, very just overpopulated in a lot of places, and so I just appreciate like just the open space here. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to see prairies again.
Yeah, it's nice. It's good. I do appreciate the trees back home in Michigan. It's like if you've been to Ontario, it's just huge oak and maple and cherry and the leaves, the colors of the leaves, red, orange, yellow, browns, greens in the fall. It's beautiful.
So had you been to Canada before?
I think only to Niagara Falls. I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What did you think of New Zealand when you went there?
New Zealand was awesome. It's really cool. Like it's such a small country. Like it reminds me. I'd have to see it on a map, but I feel like it's it's definitely smaller than California, and you have like the landscapes and the geography that like the U.S. does. Like the U.S. is pretty unique because it's got mountains, oceans, lakes, deserts, caves, canyons. Like it's got everything, but it's in a huge area. Like we grew up traveling to all the national parks, but New Zealand, it has like all of those things, but it's in such a small area. Like you can drive across the country, which is an island, in a couple hours.
Wow.
You can drive from one. It's so you're just able to do a lot more there, and it is beautiful. Like it has all of those things. We were mostly on the South Island, saw mountains, like got to go to Queenstown, which is where like if you've seen Lord of the Rings, it's the mountains of Mordor that they film. It's right there. I've got a cool picture of me longboarding down a hill, and it's just Mordor right behind me. So yeah, it was good. Really good food. It's fresh. The people there. Yeah, good people there.
And that was for Bible college?
I was with YWAM, yeah.
Oh, YWAM,
yeah,
okay.
We were there I was in New Zealand for 3 months. Then we got to choose where we went for our outreach. So it's just like the mission trip part of the YWAM. So I got to choose, there's a few different places. You could go to India or Nepal, or India and Nepal. You always went to 2 countries. There was India and another country. There was New Zealand, like North Island of New Zealand, and Nepal, and a couple others that I can't remember. So I went to the North Island of New Zealand for a few weeks, and then we spent the remainder of the time in Nepal, which was, in my opinion, just a better experience than New Zealand was, because it's it's so different culturally, like very, very third world.
For sure.
The closest experience I had to that type of poverty was Guatemala, which is like nothing really compared to Nepal. So Nepal was amazing, like completely different foods. I stood out like a sore thumb, just like a tall for them. I'm only 6 foot, like blonde, white man walking around. Like, so in a crowd, it's just like easy to see over all these little Nepalese. And
when we went to, when I was in Asia and we went to the malls and stuff like that, when we saw a white person, I was like, it's a brother.
Yeah.
It's just so rare.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so crazy level of like, of poverty there. Like you go to like these jungles an hour out of town and it's just almost nothing. They have next to nothing and they're happier than most people. They're just content.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming on the show, Colin.
Yeah,
it was good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you everyone for listening. If you guys learned something or found it interesting, please share the video with someone, as it helps me out a lot. Thanks.